Right now at noon, the KOAM Nation is asking for more people to become foster parents.
We've got another hot and muggy day, at least for some of us, but winds beginning to shift out there. We'll tell you what that means for our forecast coming up.
Plus, prosecutors announced plans to file charges against a former police chief involved in a raid on a Kansas newspaper.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, it's election day in Kansas and Missouri. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Elise Noe. Polls are open in both states until 7 p.m. tonight, and you can find out what's on your ballot and how to check your registration online. Find links and more primary election info on our website. That's KOAMnewsnow.com/elections. Now let's check in with Chris Warner for a look at the forecast.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a hot day out there for some of us. Others up north already getting behind this cold front with that northerly breeze, so it's not making it cold, but keeping temperatures cooler. Got mostly clear skies from the MoDOT camera 32nd and range line, also from our camera on the Cornell Complex downtown Joplin, but the winds in Joplin have shifted out of the west now, which is ahead of that front and ahead of that wind shift out of the north later this afternoon. KDOT camera near Kansas Crossing also looking good. Still have heat advisories for parts of northeastern Oklahoma through 9 o'clock tonight. That's for heat index values 105 to 110 degrees. Started yesterday at 73, made it up to 98, so definitely above average across, out there. We're going to be that way once again today. We're sitting at 94 in Joplin, 92 in Pittsburgh, but you can very clearly see where that cold front is as temperatures along 54 are a little cooler, upper 80s and low 90s. Yeah, a little further south, start getting to those low to mid 90s across the region, and that's putting those heat index values further south into the mid to upper 90s already. As we head to the rest of the evening, we'll have those clear skies. Temperatures gradually falling back though, 74 by midnight, ahead of what could be a below average night for our lows. We'll talk more about the temperature change, some rain chances, and how the weekend is looking so far in just a few more minutes. Lisa.
All right, thanks, Chris. The Peoria County, Illinois coroner releases the cause of death of Sydney Watson, a Carl Junction 8-year-old who died on a flight to Chicago. The flight diverted to Peoria, Illinois due to the little girl's medical complications. The coroner has now determined she died from complications from multiple infections, which they say suggest an underlying autoimmune disorder. A house fire in Columbus, Kansas causes extensive structural damage. It happened yesterday evening in the 400 block of South Vermont Street. Flames were so intense they melted the siding on a neighboring house. The residents were not home at the time of the fire and there are no reported injuries. An electric issue is a suspected cause at this time. Well, 2 special prosecutors say they plan to charge a former Central Kansas police chief over his conduct following a raid last year on his town's newspaper. It stems from an August 2023 police raid on the Marion County Record and the home of its publisher. Prosecutors say former Marion Police Chief Gideon Cody obstructed justice by withholding information from investigators. Authorities also say the newspaper and its staff committed no crimes. KOAM Nation is in dire need of foster parents for children. Chris Millard is the Indian Child Welfare Director for KOAM Nation and says they are having an extra hard time finding a home for teenage children. KOAM Nation is looking for tribal foster parents that will help kids with their mental health journey and keep them connected to their culture.
A lot of the kids that we see that are teenagers have really seen a lot of trauma and have been through a lot, and they really haven't had someone there to kind of help them figure out how to deal with those traumas. So when we're looking at homes, that's what we really want.
Willard says it's very rewarding for foster parents to see the growth of their foster child. Potential foster parents must be at least 21 and complete a home study before they accept the child into their home. While we're dealing with the usual summer heat, parts of southwest Missouri are also seeing some haze in the sky. The heat and haze are driven by the same weather setup we have in place. As Nick Kelly reports, health officials want you to be aware of how this could impact your health.
This week started out with plenty of sunshine. However, areas of haze and smoke caught the eye of meteorologist Brandon Beck this morning.
Several of our cameras this morning, specifically Mountain Home and Lebanon, even the one in Springfield, you could just see sort of this, haze came to mind at first, this white tint to the sky.
2 culprits are in play. First, the wildfires in the western United States, especially the Park Fire in California. Second, our upper-level high, centered over the central United States, is keeping us hot to start the week out. Brandon says that position is also key for the haze.
That corridor of smoke follows right there along the jet, strongest winds, and we're on the edge of the high. So some of it comes around and spills south, but that's why it's so thin here.
While the smoky haze may be thin, it's enough to decrease the air quality at a monitor installed at Hillcrest High School. One medical expert says even some haze can impact some people.
It's just going to be mild symptoms like nose, throat, eye irritation, watery, burning eyes, sneezing. But it can also cause coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath.
Dr. Bomberry with Mercy says young people, pregnant women, older adults, and immunocompromised people can be most affected by bad air quality and smoky haze. Ways to combat this starts with limiting time outside.
To stay inside, keep the windows shut because those fine particles can go through screens. If you have an air filtration system built onto your HVAC system, that can help. Or even if you just have one set up in one room in your house, try to spend the bulk of your time there. And then just know to watch for those symptoms.
The Webb City Fire Department will be handing out free child identification kits at the Webb City Farmers Market today. The kits include a card parents can fill out with information about the child, including their address and medical information. The market will be from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. and kids can also receive a free kids meal. Well, the school year is about to begin again, which means school buses will soon become a regular sight in traffic. Students and parents in Carthage will get a chance to learn about the district's bus routes and procedures today. The school bus information night will also include a bus tour, a safety lesson on and around the bus, and a meeting with the district's transportation team.
It's important because I know that the younger kids leaving home for maybe the first time, it's got to be a little bit scary for them. So if we can do anything to get them a little bit comfortable, that's what we're going to shoot for.
The event will run from 4 to 7 p.m. today at the Carthage High School Commons and is available to all students in the district and their parents. Well, student musicians are also preparing for the upcoming school year, and Pittsburgh High School is hosting a camp for its marching band. Yesterday, they practiced at Hutch Field near Pittsburgh Community Middle School. The PHS band camp runs through Friday, which is capped off with a performance for parents at 5:30 p.m. Vice President Kamala Harris picks her running mate. Her reason behind the selection coming up. And later, we're making sizzling home fries in the Mr. Foods test kitchen. The Democratic ticket is set. Vice President Kamala Harris has picked Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
Vice President Kamala Harris has made her biggest decision yet as the official Democratic presidential nominee, selecting Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. Last week, Walz spoke about his chances of being Harris's number two.
Whatever she wants is it in this moment, and just to be candid, to put a ticket together that wins in November.
The 60-year-old former high school teacher is in his second term as governor of Minnesota. He previously represented the state for 6 terms in the U.S. House and served in the Army National Guard. Walz led Minnesota during the pandemic and unrest following the police killing of George Floyd. Some political watchers see his selection as a way to appeal to moderates in the Midwest and key states that could decide this election.
Tim Walz is going to be, I think, very critical and crucial to moving some of those disaffected Republicans and those independent voters, creating a permission structure for them to support Kamala Harris.
Harris had not made a final decision as of last night. We're told her team printed multiple versions of campaign signs for tonight's rally in Philadelphia to be prepared no matter who she chose. The campaign stop in Pennsylvania kicks off a battleground state swing across the country. Former President Trump's running mate J.D. Vance is on his own battleground tour, also starting in Philadelphia.
You have J.D. Vance, who is a Midwesterner from Ohio. So this is an interesting contrast that we'll see on the VP debate stage if that comes to pass.
As the Trump campaign works to put Minnesota in play this November, it's released a statement calling Walz a, quote, dangerously liberal extremist. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
A federal judge ruled that Google has been operating as an illegal monopoly and exploiting its widely used search engine to crush competition. This included paying cell phone makers like Apple and Samsung to make Google their default search engine. The judge will decide what changes and penalties should be imposed. Google and its parent company Alphabet plan to appeal. Well, still to come on KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
If you love diner food, grab a fork and bring your appetite, because today we're cooking up a blue plate special that's nothing short of sweet.
And even though it's hot today, and it's going to be a little bit on the hot side the next couple of days, relief is on the way. We'll look at that forecast when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM News at noon. So winds for some of us are already out of the north. Winds for others are in the process of shifting. And as they do so, we're going to start to see an improvement, at least in the humidity levels across the area. Well, I'm expecting major improvements in terms of temperature, but at least it's going to get better with the humidity, which means our heat index values will begin to come down a bit. So as we continue into the afternoon, this front continues to sink to the south. No precipitation with it. And again, no significant changes to our temperatures, but those that are ahead of it are still going to be some of the hotter spots today. Upper 90s, lower 100s out there. And again, our friends up north, you've probably already peaked at your highs into the low 90s. You're going to fall back just a little, not significantly so, but just a little. We go through the evening. It's going to take a while for this whole front to get through here and for that wind to shift for everybody. But by tomorrow morning, take a look at some of these temperatures as we fall back into the mid to upper 60s for most of us across the area. So a below normal start for most of us as well. Now tomorrow's still going to be hot, but temperatures are going to be slow to climb and the air will be dry, so we don't have to deal with significant heat index values. So we're talking by noon, upper 70s, low 80s out there, whereas right now at noon, we're already in the low 90s for many of us across the region. We head into the evening, still looking pretty good. Then we have some rain chances, at least some rain chances. As we head into Thursday morning, we could see a few isolated to widely scattered showers and thunderstorms in the first half of our Thursday, so roughly before noon, 1 at the latest. Unfortunately, not everyone will see rain, and this rain doesn't do a lot for temperatures. It makes us slow to warm up again, so we're still upper 70s, low 80s by noon, but we are still going to be cruising to highs in the low to mid 90s for the area as we head into our Thursday across the region, and that trend will continue into our Friday as well. A reminder, again, heat advisories for northeast Oklahoma, excluding Delaware County, but that doesn't mean it's not hot down there. This is for heat index values of 105 to 110 degrees. Many of us already feeling that. Again, those of us that are south of the front, humidity has dropped off now in Joplin as that front sags through. So we're down to 38%. The dew point's still up there a bit, so the air's still a little thick. 94 feels like 96. The wind now out of the west. We head over to Pittsburgh. Still hot. 92 feels like 93. Same thing. Humidity now down to 36%. And see, it's just updated. The wind's now out of the west-northwest at 7 as the front continues to push through, but that dew point's still up there a little bit. Very clear where the front has come through, and with the wind shift line, very clear where that front is. So our friends up north along 54, as we mentioned this morning, your highs topping out in the low 90s. Like I said, you're not going to tumble. Still warm, still hot up here, but you've already reached your max. Down south of this front, especially along and south of I-44, that's where we're looking at those highs topping out upper 90s, lower 100s. And these heat index values, and see, even still behind the front, they're going to gradually come back down, but you get further south, look at the water, feels like 99, same in Neodesha. So you can tell where the humidity and dew point levels have dropped and where they haven't. So again, for the remainder of us ahead of that front, still upper 90s, some lower 100s out there, but the winds again shifting out of the north. Overnight tonight, they'll be out of the northeast, and we're going to drop back into the mid to upper 60s for our lows. And as we mentioned, tomorrow, we'll have the sunny skies still on the hot side, but the drier air means lower heat index values as we go low mid 90s, low to mid 90s again on Thursday with those shower chances. And then we're looking to cool back a bit heading into the weekend. So that's going to place us into the mid to upper 80s this weekend, feeling pretty pleasant. And we'll crawl back into the low 90s next week. But as you can see, most of next week, even though it's low chances, we have chances of scattered showers and storms nearly every day next week as well. So some much needed rain on the way.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Well, stick around. We're making sizzling home fries in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. We'll be right back. We're making sizzling home fries in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
You know, I love diners, And the one thing that makes it my favorite is that there are so many choices. You can get everything from fill-you-up breakfast to comforting dinners and even homemade desserts. But you want to know what my favorite diner food is? It's hot off the griddle home fries, like the ones we're making today. Here we have about 2 pounds of red potatoes that we cut into 1-inch chunks. We put those in a bowl and add a couple of large onions that we chopped. To give this authentic diner flavor, we toss this with some paprika, garlic powder, salt, and black pepper. Now, just like they do at a diner, we cook these in a large cast iron skillet or on a griddle with a bit of vegetable oil. I like to cover them at first since the water in the potatoes creates steam, which makes them nice and tender. Then to finish them off, we'll uncover them and turn up the heat. This is when they get nice and crispy. And whether you serve these for breakfast with all the fixings or as a side dish with meatloaf, you can't go wrong. And if you have any leftovers, you can easily heat them up the next day. Actually, they might even taste better. To get the recipe for our sizzling home fries, all you have to do is visit our website. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a Dinerlicious way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
You can find this recipe on KOAMnewsnow.com. Now here's a look at the 4-state market prices.
All right, a cool front pushing through. It's going to drop our humidity levels, make things a little more comfortable. Shower chances Thursday, Friday morning. Not a bad weekend. More storms next week, back to the low 90s.
All right, thanks, Chris. And Dow, what do you have for us tonight?
Lots coming up at 5. For starters, a new CDC report on the mental health crisis among young people in the U.S. highlights more work needs to be done. Data shows more teens are experiencing violence in school. We're going to take a look at which groups are most impacted. Plus, it is Election Day in Kansas and Missouri. Voters casting their ballots in local and statewide elections. We're going to take a look at some of the key races and the voter turnout. And the community of Miami comes together to raise funds for the Ottawa County Imagination Library Program. Those stories, a lot more. KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dow. And that's the news for now. Thank you for joining us on KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5. Until then, have a great rest of your day.